How's it going, guys? Welcome to the FM Dugout and welcome to a new series titled Rescue Rangers. So no prizes for guessing who I'm managing here. Slight change from the usual format. I've taken over Rangers midway through the season after Mark Warburton was sacked. So I actually did apply for the job. I was unemployed. I went through the interview process and got offered the job. We are in the 9th of January and the last match that was played, the last game under Warburton's tenure, was a 2-1 home loss to Celtic in the Hogmanay Old Firm game, which is actually taking place tomorrow. So obviously that was just the final straw for the board. Being 23 points behind Celtic after 21 games is a bit ridiculous, to be honest. So what is the goal for the series? Well, obviously short term, I want to get European qualification, so we need to finish in the top 3. And unlike real life, there is actually a team keeping up with Celtic. Hearts in good form, 3 points adrift, played a game more, but certainly putting the pressure on Celtic like no team is at the moment in real life. But that's actually going to make it more difficult for us to finish second, so maybe third might be the best we can hope for. But obviously, first of all, we have to turn around the poor run of form and see if we can actually start winning more games. So this episode is just going to cover off the current situation with the Rangers squad and maybe a few of my ideas for what I'm going to do going forward. If there's enough time, I'll cover off the first game in charge, which is in 12 days against Queen of the South at Ibrox in the Scottish Cup 4th round. So let's take a little bit of a more in-depth look at the league standings and see why Rangers are where they are. So 8th place is far from ideal. Well, I would say it was beyond unacceptable, which is why Mark Warburton has been given the sack here. Now, where does that come from? Well, you look at the statistics really here in terms of the number of games drawn and lost. 3/4 of the games Rangers have taken part in, they have dropped points. So obviously they're not going to be far up the league, but things could be worse. To be honest, the gap between 8th and 3rd at 4 points is something that is fairly easy to get back if you can get a formation that works pretty quickly and get points on the board. So that's going to be my kind of first goal, is getting 3rd. But similarly, we've got to look out for the fact that if I'm trying something new and it's not going to work, we're only 7 points above the bottom place club Kilmarnock. So it could be either very easy to get up the league or very easy to go down it. But yeah, why are Rangers struggling to get points? Well, you can look at the number of goals scored, 22 goals in 21 games, a goal a game, really. And similarly, they're conceding a goal a game, and that's very symptomatic of a club that will win games by a small margin, lose games by a small margin, or when one team is winning or losing by that margin, it's very easy for a goal to go in and games a draw. So they're just not able to get enough goals, I think, because you could live with 23 goals conceded if you're scoring 36 or 40 like Celtic or Hearts are. And I think that comes from the fact that the 4-3-3 formation or the 4-1-2-3, whichever the game has said they're playing, it's 4-3-3 basically. But that formation relies on having strong wingers and a very adept striker who's good at playing on their own. And I just don't feel that Rangers have that quality, which we'll see when we look at the squad, is not quite there. So that's where they're sitting at the moment, and that's what we've got to kind of claw back. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, honestly don't think we'll get anywhere near first place. If Hearts start to tail off, or Celtic even, maybe second place is achievable, but certainly the bare minimum is to finish a comfortable 3rd, and we'll see how it goes from there. So that's how things stand in the league. Let's take a look at the players that have led us to 8th place. So here is the Rangers squad in its entirety, and what you can see is there aren't really any standout players. We've got 2 on 4 stars, one of which is on loan, and then everyone else ranges from about 2.5 to 3.5 stars, so a very, very average looking squad. And I think, as I say, the formation that's been played looks for, certainly from an attacking perspective, it's looking for players with that little bit of class. They're able to make the difference in a game, and I just don't feel that that's here at the moment. So let's see if we can start breaking this down a bit and having a look at each of the positions. So let's look at our goalkeepers first of all. So Wes Fotheringham for me is the number one goalkeeper at the moment. I think his stats are better than Matt Gilks. If we take a look here and compare the two, then we'll see that pretty similar, to be honest. But you'll see that Gilks is less speed. His physicals aren't quite as good. A little bit better with his distribution, not quite as good in the air. Fotheringham's a little bit more eccentric. Fairly similar, but Matt Gilks is 34 years old, coming towards the end of his career, so it kind of makes sense to side with Fotheringham. In terms of the future though, you can see Robbie McCrory, as ever, is one of the bright sparks coming out of Rangers. Has been this way for years in Football Manager, that he is a number one goalkeeper in the making. And you can see 18 years old, his skills are pretty good at this stage, and I want to get him involved in the first team to see if we can actually improve in this, get him on a longer contract and see if he can kind of wrestle that number one jersey away from Fotheringham at an early stage. So then we take a look at defenders, and this is one of the areas where I feel Rangers, they have struggled in, and there's no secret about that. So we've got Tavernier and Wallace as first choice right and left backs. Not really a great deal of competition, certainly not in the left back position. We'll look at Tavernier's skills, actually pretty decent, and I think he's certainly maybe not quite as good from a defensive point of view here. Work rate's a little bit low as well, but physicals are good. The attacking side of his technical game is good as well, which certainly favours an attacking fullback or a wing back type position. And I think he's certainly going to be good enough for this season, but long term I will be looking at replacing him. Similarly, Lee Wallace, fantastic physicals, pretty good mentals as well. He's club captain after all. He should be pretty good in that regard. In terms of his technical ability, he is definitely better defensively than Tavernier, maybe lacking a little bit in some of the areas going forward, but most of these in double figures, so very, very solid left back for us. There's not really much else in the wide positions. We've got Lee Hudson, who has been brought in the summer of 2016 as backup to both players really, to play right or left back. Good physicals, good mentals as well. I mean, he's a solid squad player, but that's all he's ever going to be. And I think we'll see him kind of used fairly sparingly in our playthrough. Then central defence is really the area where we have a problem. So Clint Hill at 38, he's still good from a technical point of view, very good mentally, physicals as you'd expect from a 38-year-old. His career is approaching the end, and I won't be renewing his contract. I don't think he'll be playing a great deal for us. Now, controversially, we have Phillips and Ross, who was brought in by Mark Warburton, I think as a bit of a kind of panic signing, to be honest. I'm not a massive fan of Senderos. I feel he's quite a cumbersome centre-back, but he is fairly commanding in terms of his aerial presence, so hopefully in the game here we can get something out of him. 15 appearances in the league, 7 average ratings, not too bad. Then we got Danny Wilson, 6.8 in 12 games, not really that great. His stats are good. He shouldn't really be a terrible defender, certainly in terms of his concentration. It's a little bit disappointing at 7, and that's why he gets caught out a lot of the time watching the ball. Decisions 9 as well. Definitely is someone who benefits from playing alongside a more experienced defender. And then we got Rob Kiernan, who certainly in this game his stats seem to be fairly decent. The mental side of his game definitely is an area that he has trouble with. I think from my point of view his positioning isn't as good as 12 in real life. I think he's pretty poor, but anyway, that's what we have. He's played 7.01 in 10 games, not too bad as well. So they're kind of first choice centre backs. So we move on into midfield and we take a look at what's here. We've got 3 midfielders on loan from other clubs. probably just glance at them very quickly. We've got Philip Billing on loan from Huddersfield, solid player, 7.37 average rating, played pretty well, to be honest. We've got Jamie Hansen from Derby, again another solid player, slightly less in the physicals, but looking at someone who plays as a deep lying playmaker, his vision, first touch, very, very good for that position. Not played quite as well, 6.79. We'll see how they get on. In terms of our players, though, Jordan Rossiter is the standout, I think, really. At 19 years old, his skills are fantastic. I'd like to see him really stay here and be the linchpin of our midfield, and potential captain material. I think his leadership's 14, determination 15, teamwork. He's kind of got that mould of leading by example. Technical side of his game, pretty good from a defensive point of view. Maybe want things to be a little bit better kind of going forward. Maybe his dribbling to improve a bit, his finishing to improve, but as a ball winning midfielder you don't necessarily need those things. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with that, on a contract till 2020 as well, so that's pretty good. Then we have Harry Forster, who was actually transfer listed when I came in. I've taken him off the list just because I think, looking at his stats, he's a good enough player. Whether or not he'll fit into the tactics I intend on playing, I don't know. He's not played particularly well, 6.69 in 10 games in the league, not really good enough. Then we've got Ainsley Maitland-Niles, again on loan from Arsenal, has played rather poorly, 6.57. Obviously brought in to favour the kind of 4-3-3 formation that Warburton like to play. Good physicals, he's a pretty solid player, to be honest. But I'm not a major fan of having loan deals. I really think it's better to try and get your players developing if you can. Jason Holt, currently injured at the moment, plays in the number 10 role, advanced playmaker. For those skills that we're looking at, all pretty good. One thing I will say, is far too lightweight, strength of 5, 70 kilograms. He just gets pushed off the ball, and that's certainly something that you'll see in real life, is that he will be out muscled quite a lot. So perhaps if I do play him, I'll be looking to play players to maybe protect him a little bit, kind of stronger players in the central midfield area. Andy Halliday next. Everyone knows with Halliday, he's a huge Rangers fan, which definitely goes in his favour, but pretty limited as far as I'm concerned in this game in terms of his technical ability, and I think that is reflective of what he's like in real life. He's a useful squad player to have, fairly versatile in where he can play, but I just don't see a long-term future. Contracted till 2020, so I probably will look to sell him in the summer window coming up. Then we've got Josh Windass, Matt Crooks brought in from Accrington Stanley. Nothing major to kind of call out. I think Windass is a good squad player again, double figures for a lot of things. If he was sitting at 19 years old looking like this, I think there probably would be more that we could get or expect to get from him in terms of progression. But again, another player who I think he'll be useful, but not necessarily a kind of key player in the team. Matt Crooks, it's an odd one with Matt Crooks. He's not getting played much here. He's not getting played much in real life either, and I think he's a good enough player to play in that kind of holding midfielder role. But here, obviously, we're looking at Jordan Rossiter, and the guys that are in on loan are obviously going to play ahead of him at the moment. His technical skills are lacking, but the more game time you get, the more they will improve. And in terms of being a ball-winning midfielder, he's got tackling, he's got marking, he's got a good work rate, and his physicals are good. So, he's a pretty decent player, but again, not someone I'd expect to be a kind of world beater. Then we've got Michael O'Halloran, who I have actually transfer listed. He's quick, but there's not much else to say about his game. And I'll get on to it later on why I probably will be getting rid of him. Nico Kranjčar is injured, just like real life. I gave him a cruciate injury till the end of the season, so he won't be playing. So an 8k a week is fairly expensive. Class player when he's fit and playing. His physicals have definitely dipped, and they're not going to improve. So I doubt we'll be seeing much of Kranjčar in this Let's Play. And then we've got Jack Thompson, Liam Burt as two promising youngsters. Decided to bring them up because I'm sure that their attributes will benefit from being in and around the first team in terms of the training. Liam Burt in real life in particular is one that a lot of Rangers fans are excited about. There's definitely some good skills in there. Good first touch decisions, fairly quick. His vision's particularly good. So if we can get him some game time this season, see if we can kind of progress his advancement a bit, that'd be good. And then we've got Fraser Aird, who I have listed. I just don't see much in him at all. And then Jordan Thompson is another player who I think his progression has been stifled just from not playing enough first team football. So we'll see whether we can get him getting some game time. Moving on into attack now. Ignoring the players we've covered already, we've got Martin Waghorn as our top striker. Can play in a number of positions, but he will be playing as a forward for us. I think his stats are fairly decent. There's nothing, fantastic. He's a good worker. Positioning is particularly poor for me. I would be looking for that to be much better. His finishing is okay, and his physicals are fine as well, so I think he'll do a decent job. 5 goals and 13 so far, not a great return. We'll see how it goes. Next up is Joe Garner, signed from Preston North End in the summer, and surprised actually advanced forward is his favoured role. Definitely saw him more of a target man. He's good in the air. Decent first touch, good at holding the ball up. He's a good worker. In fact, work rate 14 I think is probably a bit low for him. From a mental point of view, he's definitely someone who's going to give his all in a game. But we'll see how things go, because he's failed to kind of find form in real life, not managing to get the goals. And I think a lot of that is down to the formation, which, as I said earlier, we'll get on to in a bit. Then we got Joe Dodu away on loan to Dundee United, who's hardly played for them. Technical side of his game is quite lacking, and at 21 it's a bit of a concern. Physicals are very good, mental's not too bad, so we'll see how it goes. I would have hoped he would have played a bit more for Dundee United than he has. And speaking of Dundee United, they're actually wanting Ryan Hardy as well. Now, Ryan Hardy is a guy who's been around for quite some time in Football Manager. So it's surprising that he's still actually 19. I think he's got quite a bit of potential. I don't think he's going to be, a £10 million striker or anything, but I certainly think he's someone that will be able to bang in the goals. 15 finishing, 11 composure, pretty decent there. He's actually quite quick, and he's pretty fit as well, stamina and natural fitness wise. Strength is too low, which we'll need to work on, because he's only 67 kilograms, and for someone who is over 6 foot tall, is certainly an area I would like to see him improve on, and bulk up a little bit. And then last but probably not least, we've got this promising youngster Zack Robin, who's doing pretty well for Rangers at the moment in their development side. Warburton favours playing the youngsters one kind of level higher than their age, really kind of determines they should be playing. And Zack Robin is one of those guys that I feel there's enough about him to have him around the first team. We do need to work on his composure. Dribbling, finishing and first touch are all very good. Would like to see his positioning improve as well. But another one who's fairly quick and quite fit as well. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get him involved in a few games. We'll see whether or not he can have any kind of impact. So that's how the squad sits at the moment. So let's now take a look at my plans for the future. So let's start off with the formation that I'm looking to play. Looking at the 5, what have they labelled this as? A 5-2-1-2 wing back. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's like a 5-3-2. It's a glorified 5-3-2. Now, there's a few reasons for doing this. One, I feel 2 up top is absolutely vital at the moment with the players we've got. Having Joe Garner as a target man, Waghorn as an advanced forward, and Barry Mackay an advanced playmaker, being told to get further forward, for me is a way that we're going to get more chances from the knock-ons that Garner will undoubtedly win. And it's something that's missing from Rangers when they play two wide men, they're not really getting into that central position when the ball's played up to Garner. So I think it's something that we could certainly see an improvement on. And as I said earlier, they're not scoring enough goals, and I think this is one way we might be able to do it. In this particular formation, I'm looking at two sort of holding midfielders, guys that will just steady the ship in the middle of the park, play simple passes, one deep line playmaker and one ball winning midfielder, supported by two attacking wing backs. Hudson's in at the moment just because he's cup tied. He's not cup tied, it's Tavernier who's suspended for the game against Queen of the South. But I've told these guys to get further forward, stay wide, get crosses in from the byline, which kind of goes along the lines of our team instructions where I've said I want to look for an overlap. Unlike other tactics I've done, I've not actually specified a particular build-up because I'd like us to be quite varied in our play. Having the wing backs as an option for going wide and getting crosses into the box is one, but you've also got the ability to create things through the middle with your advanced playmaker, and also a target man if you decide to go long. So I don't want to kind of shoehorn us into one particular way of playing. So why have I opted for three at the back? There's not a great deal of pace in the Rangers back line, nor a great deal of quality either. So until we can get that quality in, I feel much more comfortable playing three at the back. And I think what that will do is give us a much stronger foundation for building attacks, and to deal with the threat from other teams. Obviously I'll have to look at changing it if things aren't working, but this is what I'm intending on playing against Queen of the South. I've got 4-2-3-1 as a backup formation, obviously with the players that we have at our disposal. It's well suited to that kind of formation. And then I've gone with a 4-4-2 diamond, but I'm not entirely sure that I want to do that. I'm kind of thinking what I might actually do is play the formation I ended up with at Stirling in the British Steel Challenge, which was the 4-2-3-1 narrow. Really does get the most out of your attacking midfielders, and again you'd be looking for your wing back or your full backs rather this time to get much further up the park. That's actually just totally changed my team around. That's not what I want. I don't want Ross playing up front, and I need to swap these guys around. So anyway, that's how things stand as far as my approach to tactics are concerned. We'll see how it gets on in the Queen of the South game. Not the greatest of tests, but it gives us a chance to actually try it out and see whether or not it's going to work. Obviously another thing I'm kind of looking at is Jamie Hansen, choosing him over Philip Billing when Billing has been playing better than both Rossiter and Hansen. But looking at Hansen with his vision, I'm just kind of thinking that that's maybe better to find the passes out wide or through to Mackay. Now obviously what this means is guys like Josh Murphy here on loan, who is a very adept player on loan from Norwich, struggles to get a place in the team. Likewise Ainsley, Maitland-Niles, and this is what I was saying before about Warburton shoehorning players into a particular formation rather than having a team that's flexible enough to play multiple formations. And it's also the reason why I've decided that Michael O'Halloran will be put up for sale, because I've just not intended on playing anyone in that attacking midfielder right position. Similarly, we'll see with Harry Forrester. I'm trying to train him as an advanced playmaker in the middle of the park, because I think he has played there in real life, and I think that's actually probably where he's strongest. So I'd like to see if he can improve there a little bit. With it being the January window, we have the ability to bring players in at the moment, but I'm not expecting to see too much movement on that front. I think the majority of the squad we have here is what we'll have come the end of the season. I will try and move players on that I don't think are going to play a part in our run-in, and we'll see whether or not we can find any bargains that will improve the quality within the squad. The kind of key areas I'm looking at are attacking midfield, maybe to get another permanent central midfielder in, maybe another attacker, and potential cover in the kind of wing back areas. Ideally I'd like to bring in a centre back, but I don't think I'll get anyone better than who we have with the money that is available. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway guys, that will do for this episode with the kind of review of the current Rangers standings and the squad. Hopefully you guys have found it interesting. If you have, please leave a like and a comment. And until the next time guys, I'll see you when I see you.